If you're in your 20s and want to be rich, then this video could change everything. I'm going to show you 7 actionable steps which most people in their 20s get completely wrong. And if you watched my last video, you'll know I said that your 20s are the most important decade of your life. And I meant it. That video was all about building your foundation, from your mindset, good habits, money management, and also relationships. Because if your foundation is weak, it's not going to matter what you do. No strategy will stick, and you sure as hell won't be able to build wealth. This video is all about using that foundation to build wealth for your future. And this isn't a get-rich-quick spin or information filled with, empty promises. And it also doesn't require a rocket science degree to apply. All you're going to need to do is learn discipline, resilience, self-control, and have a keen eye for identifying opportunities as they arise. Because real wealth is not created overnight. So if you're in your 20s and wondering what it takes to be rich, then this video is for you. My name is Richard G-Cornell, and this channel is dedicated to helping people create their own destinies. I've been in business for 30 years, helping brands sell more of their products and services. But most importantly, I'm going to show you how to cope and succeed in your journey whilst enjoying it along the way. So let's get into it. Live below your means and avoid bad debt. And this is where most people go wrong, okay? They see that shiny new toy and they have to have it. Even if they can't afford it. They simply don't have the self-control to stop themselves from buying it. So how do they pay for it? Well, they just go and chuck it on their credit card, right? Or they get a loan, and guess what happens? Soon enough, that shiny new toy, it gets stale, and they're still stuck with that debt. And this is the first mistake, and probably one of the most critical mistakes that young people make in their 20s. Because going into credit for something which is not, appreciating in value, it puts you behind the 8 ball from day one. And if you can't control your spending, I can tell you now, you are never going to be able to build wealth. So if you can't afford it, then just don't buy it. And this is the debt trap which holds people back from being rich. And once you're on that debt treadmill, it's not that easy to get off. And you're stuck paying with high interest rates for absolutely no reason for a very long period of time. And it's normal to want nice things, right? We all do, I get it. And I remember how I used to drive a shitty little car, for years whilst my friends had nice new cars. But as much as I really wanted that car, I knew I couldn't afford it because I was working towards something bigger, right? So if you're an Australian tradie who wants that brand new Hilux, so to speak, just remind yourself of the bigger picture. And it doesn't even have to be a new car. Young people go into bad debt for things like, clothes, TVs, furniture, experiences, holidays, because they're not prepared to wait for it. And that debt trap, it fuels the type of society that we live in today. And it's the worst trap for young people because they feel like they have to keep up with their peers, and that is really sad, and it certainly won't reward them in the future. So my point here is this. Nothing wrong with dreaming and having something to look forward to. Because what do they say? Good things take time. And if you want to be rich, then remember, you don't need to flex your muscles. What you need to do is build. You need to spend less than you earn, avoid bad debt, and save a fixed percentage of your wage each and every week. And being rich isn't about showing off, right? It's built through discipline and self-control. So next time you see something that you really want, but you shouldn't buy it because you simply can't afford it, because it'll hold you back from being rich someday, then just remind yourself of the bigger picture, and trust me, it will be much worth it for you in the long run. Believe me on this. And then when you're rich, you can then go and buy whatever you want with no stress at all. Cash, simple as that. Invest in yourself. And once you've got control of your money and you're learning the art of self-control and discipline, right? Then the next step is to start investing in the one asset that never loses value. And that is you, right? You invest in yourself, you'll never go wrong. And you only need to look at rich people to see that what they're constantly investing in, right? They're investing in themselves, from sales skills, leadership, new technologies, or learning about how to grow or protect their wealth. Learning should never stop, and it should be the absolute one constant in your life, and especially when you're young. It's nothing for university students to rack up, student debt of many tens of thousands of dollars so they can learn their craft, and then they're going to take decades to pay it off. So why not apply the same methodology to learning how to be rich? Because this is something that school or uni, it just doesn't teach you, right? Yet learning how to be rich, that's going to stay with you forever. And the beauty about learning how to be rich is that it will show you that you don't need to wait until you have a ton of money, right? Learning how to be rich all starts with a basic set of principles that anyone can apply at any age, most importantly. And it doesn't matter what job you're in or whether you're in business. You'll need to learn high income skills like sales, investing, marketing, communication, and leadership, just to name a few, as these skills will help you to promote yourself and get rich, no matter what industry you're in. Now, look at this example, right? Now, I love buying property, and I've been investing in property for 25 years. And in that time, I've had to constantly learn everything from how to buy, when to buy, where to buy, and why. Because if I didn't invest in myself to learn about property, I could have lost a ton of money. So if you like property, just as an example, right, and you want to invest in property, then you'll need to learn as much about property as you can. You shouldn't just go out there and buy a property before you understand, right, what you're investing in, as that'd be madness. So you could buy books, right? You could take courses, you could find mentors, or watch YouTube videos like this about property buying. Then soon enough, you'll be equipped with the skills to make informed property buying decisions. Then the more you know about property buying, the more valuable you become and the more money you can create. And that is where the rich get richer. Now, before I move on, if this is hitting home so far, then please give it a quick like, as it helps the channel reach more Aussies in their 20s. Now let's get back into the video. Solve people's problems. Okay, money follows value. If you want to make more money, then solve bigger problems. If you have something that someone really wants, then chances are the price doesn't become the focus anymore. People are prepared to pay more for something that can help solve their problems. Simple as that. And if you want to be rich, then you're going to need to be that person who can identify people's frustrations, inefficiencies, and pain points. And if you can learn how to be that person who fixes problems, then you'll be able to name your price, okay? And the beauty here is that all of a sudden, you're not working for a set fee or an hourly rate anymore. You'll be able to apply a price which is in line with what that person is prepared to pay, you know, in order to have the things and their problems solved, okay? And if I have to use myself as an example again here in my line of work, I get paid more money when I solve people's problems, as my clients' problems all revolve around them being more visible in the marketplace, okay? They pay me more to make them more money by ways of marketing, you know, advertising and strategy and good business advice. And when I make them more money, then they're happy to pay me much more as a result. So think of this as a results-based business, as this is how you become rich. And this can be in any industry, any market sector. It doesn't matter what you're selling, okay? At the end of the day, you're selling a solution to a problem. So if you're in your 20s and you're wondering what you can do to make more money, then start by looking for problems which you can learn how to fix, you know? And this is where you should start first, especially now with the advancement in, like, you know, technologies like AI, right? As it has never been easier for young people to use technology to help them in their quest to be rich. And you can start in your own industry, okay? You don't need to look anywhere else that you might be working in at the moment. You know, use AI to see what common problems are in your industry and see if you can work out a solution, because this is how the best inventions occur. And how many times have you heard of a new invention and thought to yourself, you know, wow, that's such a simple yet smart idea, and why didn't I think of that, right? And all you need to do is find that problem, fix it, bank it, and then get the cash and then do it again and again. So the goal here is to stop chasing money, chase impact instead, and the money will start flowing. Create passive income streams. Now, here's something that you really have to consider, right? You'll never be rich trading time for money. And what I mean here is that you can only work so many hours in a day, right? So it's then fair to say that you'll have a limit to how much money that you can make. And this is where the rich really make money. They make money whilst they sleep, and we call this passive income, okay? They don't rely on their time anymore to make money. They invest in passive income streams which keep making them money regardless of what they do throughout their given day. And again, I'm going to use myself as an example here, right? Whilst we're talking about property, okay? Now, one of my passive income streams is through property. And my, passive income here is generated in a few ways. First, my properties increase in value every year. And the more properties I own and the longer I hold on to my properties, then the more they go up in value. The second passive income stream I have through property is that I rent my properties out to people who need a place to live. And that rent, which I collect every week, it goes to paying the properties off. And the third way I get passive income from my properties is through negative gearing. And that means that all of my out-of-pocket expenses, they're basically tax deductible, which means I don't have to pay tax on the money that I make from my properties. Now, obviously, I'm not going into much detail here, as there's a lot more to it than that. And I'm not trying to give you financial advice, but I'm just trying to highlight how passive income works for me and how I make money whilst I sleep. Actually, I'm going to make a video on that. So hang tight, I'm going to make a video on passive income streams, right? So if you want to learn more about that, then leave a comment as watch out for it. I'm going to make a video. Anyway, the point here is that you need to take yourself out of the equation. Meaning, if you have a client that needs something done, well, instead of you doing it yourself, why not pay someone else to do it at a cheaper rate whilst you charge the client more? And that way, you're left with a passive income profit. And all you need to do is get more clients, right? So when you look at passive income, think of it as ways to build assets whilst you sleep. Simple as that. And it doesn't even matter if your profits are small at first, because in time, these small profits, they're going to compound and turn into bigger profits for later. And this is where true freedom comes, when your money works harder than you do. Look for new opportunities. Now, the world is changing very fast, and with every new day comes a new opportunity, okay? as these opportunities don't have to be in your own industry where you make your money. These opportunities happen basically when or where you least expect it, and also in areas where you probably never consider yourself entering into. But this is what makes opportunities exciting. When you have the ability to identify an opportunity, especially when you're young and you have nothing to lose, then this is where the most gains can be made. When you're in your 20s, you'll be much more eager than someone, say, in their 30s, right? Who's been in the workforce already for 10 years, getting a bit set in their ways. Your 20s should be about trying new things, exploring, investigating to see what you like and what you don't like, making mistakes and picking yourself up to get going again. This is the decade where your mistakes, they're not going to cost you everything. So look at it like free spins on the roulette wheel at the casino. Now, I shouldn't have used that as an analogy. It's pretty bad. I'm not trying to talk about gambling, but you get my point. This is the decade where you don't have the big responsibilities yet of life. So this is where you can try and fail, try again and fail. But with each failure comes a lesson, and with each lesson comes an experience. And this is where you can use these experiences to set yourself up for life. So it's important that you stay curious, stay adaptable, okay? And stay hungry more than anything. And remember, wealth flows to those who see what others ignore. So just keep that in mind. Play the long game. And remember the saying, Rome wasn't built in a day. Well, building wealth takes time. Don't fall for quick wins or shortcuts, as they rarely last. And the whole idea about getting rich quickly is something you should completely eliminate from your way of thinking, because it goes against the whole idea of setting up foundations for wealth and having a mindset of getting rich quick. It's only going to cause you distractions from the bigger picture of wealth creation. Your 20s are the planting seeds for learning skills, creating assets and forming relationships. So be patient, be consistent, and remember, compounding doesn't happen overnight. And if you focus on planting the right types of seeds, then your garden, I promise you, is going to flourish. Very important thing to remember. And last but not least, don't give up. This is easier said than done, but I can tell you now that you're going to fail and will doubt yourself along the way, as this is natural if you want to learn. But remember this, the only way you'll lose is if you stop. And if you look at every successful person that you admire, then understand this, they failed along the way as well. And not just failed once, they've failed multiple times, and they're probably still failing now. Because if you don't fail, then you won't learn. And if you don't learn, you won't grow. And if you don't grow, then you won't be rich. But the most important thing to remember here is that successful people, they don't give up. They keep going when others quit. They keep persisting, and persistence, it beats talent each and every time. And this is the secret to building wealth. And if I was to pick just one out of the 7 actionable steps in this video that I've given you, it would be to not give up. Because if you keep going when you think you have nothing left to give, then I can tell you now that you're going to be successful no matter what you do. It's as simple as that. Now this wraps up my video today. And if you've built the foundation techniques from my last video, from having, the right mindset, habits and relationships, and then these 7 steps are your action plan you will need for creating real wealth. So remember, if you're in your 20s and you want to be rich, then live below your means. Invest in yourself, solve problems, build passive income, stay alert for opportunities, play the long game, and most importantly, never, ever, ever give up. And if you do this, trust me, your 30s and 40s will thank you for it. So thank you very much for watching. And I'd love it if you could please like and subscribe or share it with any one of your friends in their 20s. As in my next video, I'm going to break down the exact passive income streams that I built in my 30s. So make sure you subscribe so you'll be the first to see it. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Cheers.